Hi, welcome to Archaeonomy. Today I'll be playing catch-up, discussing archaeological articles from mid-March 2018. I'll kick things off with an Inquisitor article entitled Scholars have catalogued 54 Roman Brancaster Rings in the UK, including the one that inspired J.R.R. Tolkien. One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. During the final days of Roman control over Britain, a select and aristocratic group of individuals showed their superiority by wearing an item known as a Brancaster Ring, and 54 of these have now been thoroughly catalogued by a team of scholars from Oxford and Newcastle, including the famous ring that's believed to have inspired J.R.R. Tolkien's writings in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. The Brancaster Rings were given their title after the first of these rings was discovered around the middle half of the 19th century in Norfolk, and this particular type of ring can be identified by its rectangular or square shape, which holds secret writings upon it. As Heritage Daily report, the vast majority of these rings have been fashioned out of silver, although there are a few that were constructed out of gold. They were quite different from the more traditional bronze rings that were prevalent during the early Roman occupation, and were also in marked contrast to Anglo-Saxon rings, which in comparison were decidedly plain. What this is showing is the introduction of Mediterranean administrative and aristocratic systems into Britain over time, as Britain changed from being a recently conquered island with military occupation to being yet another province in the vast Roman Empire. Another thing that set the Brancaster ring apart from normal rings is that they were worn not only for decorative purposes, but also used as seals for letters, and what would have been extremely crucial documents at the time. Signet rings were not an unusual thing in ancient Greece and Rome, and they, like underfloor heating and straight roads, arrived with the Romanization of Britain. The article says that they reached their peak of use in the 5th century, which is interesting, given the events of the early 5th century saw the collapse of Roman rule. And of course, all sorts of interesting invasions occurred, and that's part of what makes the study of British history so fun. Out of the 54 Brancaster rings discovered, it was the Senescianus ring, which was believed to have been the influence for J.R.R. Tolkien's writings in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. This is because when Tolkien was professor at Oxford, Sir Mortimer Wheeler is alleged to have had many deep conversations with the writer about the curse, which had been identified with it. The curse was found on a Roman tablet and read, "To the god Nodens, Silvianus has lost his ring and promises half its value to Nodens. Among those named Senescianus, let none enjoy health until he brings it back to the temple of Nodens." If anyone's interested, Nodens was a Celtic god, not Lovecraft's version, but before his time sadly. His main temple was at Lydney Park in Gloucestershire. Okay, sticking with the Inquisitor, we have archaeologists may have discovered the first port of Naples, dating back 25 centuries ago. What's believed to be the original port of Naples has been located beneath the waters near the Castel dell'Ovo. During a presentation conducted last week, archaeologists announced that they may have discovered what's the original port of Naples, with its structure dating back to 25 centuries ago. During an investigation of the waters close to the Castel dell'Ovo, a group of divers noticed that there were 4 tunnels just 32 feet beneath the water, and speculated that these may have once been used to moor boats at a time when the surrounding waters would be much more shallow than they are today. Besides the tunnels, they've also noticed the ruins of a road that still contains tracks that would have been made by heavy wagon wheels, similar to what are found on the streets of Pompeii. Near this road was a trench, which may have been constructed as a defensive area used by ancient soldiers, as the local report. Unfortunately, this article has no pictures of the underwater structures. However, this article from the local.it has a video exploring one of the tunnels, with voiceover in Italian. As usual, the links to all the articles are in the description. Luciano Guerrella, who's in charge of local archaeology, has said that it's his firm belief that if this does indeed turn out to be the original port of Naples, it would bode well for tourism, with people flocking from around the world to see this ancient site. However, a new form of tourism would need to be embraced for curious visitors to fully enjoy the experience of this remarkable discovery. That tunnel looks quite claustrophobic for diving, and I wonder how safe that would be for a typical tourist casual diver. Archaeological work is currently on hold right now, but further investigatory work will continue in May, which should hopefully determine whether the original port of Naples has indeed been found. Hopping across the Adriatic, we come to this article from Archaeology News Network. 400 plus archaeological digs conducted along Trans-Adriatic pipeline route in northern Greece. More than 400 archaeological excavations discovered along the route dug out for the Trans-Adriatic pipeline, TAP, have been completed, while another 7 large-scale projects are ongoing in the regions traversed by the pipeline, the company said on Tuesday following the 31st annual conference Archaeological Excavations in Macedonia and Thrace in Thessalonica, held between 8 and 10 March 2018 at the Aristotle University. The Trans-Adriatic pipeline is a section of a larger natural gas pipeline project being constructed to connect southern European countries to the gas fields in Azerbaijan. What this effectively means is that a trench will be dug right across northern Greece and through Albania. Given the history of this part of the world, it's no great surprise that a large number of archaeological discoveries have been made. This image shows part of a fortress related to Philip II of Macedon encountered by the project. The multiple findings that have been unearthed, both movable and immovable, include burial grounds or individual tombs, with some of them containing grave goods, parts of settlements and architectural remains such as walls and churches, monuments, workshops, and indications of human activity, for instance kilns and wells. Here's a drone photo of an ancient cemetery. And here an archaeologist excavates a Macedonian warrior's grave. Lead scientists, representatives of 9 northern Greek ephorates from the regional units of Evros, Rhodope, Xanthi, Ceres, Kilkis, Thessalonica, Kozani, Castoria, and Florina, discussed the initial findings of their excavation research, noting that archaeological excavations in Greece would have almost completely ceased if it weren't for the funds from public or private works. Sounds like academic archaeology is in trouble there for lack of funding, but these big projects have kept salvage archaeology alive and well. In this photo, the archaeologists are working to save this ancient furnace from the path of the pipeline, using concrete and rebar to lift it as a single object. These are glass bracelets found in the Byzantine period cemetery. It's nice to have such a picture-heavy article, to be honest. Off to the UK now, with this article from Somerset Live. Plans for 140 homes in North Petherton halted by discovery of late Iron Age settlement. Housing development plans has been halted in North Petherton due to the discovery of a late Iron Age early Roman settlement. Archaeologists from Cotswold Archaeology discovered a series of 18 trenches on land to the east of Newton Road dating back thousands of years. They discovered trenches? It's believed they date back to the Triassic, late Iron Age and early Roman periods. Triassic. Who wrote this article? While geological deposits may date to this period, sure, it's hardly relevant to archaeologists. Not many humans running around 200-odd million years ago. The land has been earmarked for 140 homes, but the application was rejected by Sedgemoor District Council last year, due to insufficient information that the development would not have a significant adverse impact on the surrounding archaeology. The applicant, Labman Developments, has appealed the decision. Okay, I think I see where this is going. Cotswold Archaeology excavated 18 trenches on the Newton Road site in December 2017, and a recently published report has revealed the significance of the discovery. A spokeswoman for the South West Heritage Trust said, "A trial trench evaluation has been carried out which revealed a possible barrow and part of a late Iron Age early Roman settlement. These remains are locally significant and could shed light on the settlement and use of the area in prehistoric and Roman periods." So they didn't discover 18 trenches, the archaeologists dug them as part of exploratory works to try and get an understanding of what may be there. That's pretty standard practice. The report states 2 fragments of worked prehistoric flint were retrieved from the possible ring ditch, and the circular shape could suggest a prehistoric feature. A total of 123 fragments of pottery weighing 1.2 kilos, not certain why that matters, were found across 6 trenches. The material ranges in date from the late prehistoric period to the 19th century. It's in moderate condition. Can you see what's happening here? The argument's being made that 140 much-needed homes are being prevented from being built because the archaeologists found some pieces of broken crockery. Those awful, mean archaeologists. 3 prehistoric worked flints, including a scraper of possible Bronze Age date, were retrieved from the ditch, the report states. The housing plans are for the construction of up to 140 dwellings, demolition of outbuildings, as well as the creation of public open space including landscaping, a sustainable drainage system and access roads. Sedgemoor District Council explained why the application was declined, stating, "Insufficient information has been submitted in respect of adequate trial trenching to ensure that the development would not have a significant adverse impact on the surrounding archaeology as a designated heritage asset." Council has also expressed fears over transport links to and from the location and flooding prevention measures. The Council's statement is classic cultural resource management. They want to know exactly what impact the development will have on the archaeology before approving it, which requires an understanding of what archaeological deposits are actually present. Clearly they consider 18 test trenches insufficient testing given what was found in them. If and when permission for such a huge subdivision as this is given, often the local authority is signing off the complete destruction of any archaeological remains within it. The reason for wanting extensive testing to understand it better is to identify significant areas, maybe reserve those off to preserve them, or to require intensive archaeological excavation in those areas with basic monitoring used elsewhere. This can actually help the developers, as archaeological excavations cost money, and by reserving the areas with the significant archaeological remains, you don't have to pay to have them investigated. You save money, and the site is protected. Everyone's happy. They had plans for reserves and landscaping as part of the development anyway, so by shifting boundaries around, they may not even lose sections. Stories like this are not uncommon, and archaeology being seen by developers and the public as an undesirable expense that can delay or even completely derail a development project only results in a lack of reporting when archaeological remains are found. You just bulldoze on through, no one saw nothing. Alright, staying in the UK, I'll finish with this article from The Independent. Alchemy, flushing toilets and bloodletting, the secrets of medieval Oxford revealed. Archaeologists have been unearthing the realities of daily life at Oxford University, as they were experienced some 7 centuries ago. In one of Britain's largest ever urban excavations, investigators have found the writing equipment, refectory cutlery, and even ceramic beer mugs used by students and teachers back in the 13th, 14th and 15th centuries. They've even been able to rediscover what Oxford's medieval scholars were eating, a very wide range of food, including beef, lamb, goose, salmon, trout and eggs. For the first time for many centuries, archaeologists were able to see substantial parts of one of the university's greatest medieval teaching institutions, a friary established by Franciscan friars in 1224. Unsurprisingly, medieval scholars seemed to eat pretty well. No instant noodles and reheated pizza for these students. Franciscan Dominican monks developed the institution, teaching Latin, basic maths and law at first, and then through a focus on theology taught advanced philosophy, physics, natural history, geology and even optics. The archaeological project is looking into what life was like at the university as it developed into a true academic institution. The operation, directed by archaeologist Ben Ford of the heritage consultancy Oxford Archaeology, has yielded well-preserved quills, styluses, even parchment prickers, the special needles used to rough out page layouts on parchment manuscripts. The archaeologists even unearthed oil lamps to read by, a rare medieval pencil made of pure lead, bronze bookmarks, special scissors to cut vellum, and a very rare brass clasp from a large 13th century book. The friars provided copies of syllabus books for their students to use. It demonstrates how teaching is becoming more systematized and more professional. Here you can see some of the styluses that have been found. The archaeological evidence suggests that student life in medieval Oxford probably had at least as large a food and drink complement as it does today. The excavations produced fragments of hundreds of medieval beer mugs and bits of several large, metre-high Spanish amphorae, probably used to import wine. University students drinking a lot. Who would have thought? In their defence, at the time everyone in Europe drank a lot, since water was often so unsafe to drink. Fragments of at least a dozen medieval glass urine sample bottles have been unearthed. These would have been inspected by medically trained friars or barber surgeons who believed that they could detect disease by assessing the liquid's colour and clarity. A particularly enigmatic object found by the archaeologists was a beautifully preserved small wooden bowl, made of plum or apple tree wood, which may have been used to collect blood during bloodletting. It's known that some medieval people, including members of religious communities, used such bowls to regularly bleed themselves, in the belief that the practice was good for their health. An added inducement, in the case of monks and friars, was that after each bloodletting session they were entitled to 3 days' holiday. There wasn't any bloodletting at uni when I was there, but then again I didn't go to one of those fancy American universities with their fraternities and sororities, who I understand get at some pretty freaky stuff. But perhaps the rarest find of all is a wooden ball, physical evidence that medieval Oxford scholars were playing ball games. It confirms a medieval account of Oxford students entertaining themselves with such distractions, although the historical account is about a student who was actually killed during such a game. Ball games of all sorts were such a source of trouble in medieval England that the government eventually banned all of them. In an official declaration, King Edward III ordained that all his subjects were prohibited, under penalty of imprisonment, from stone, wood and iron throwing, including handball, football or hockey, or other such idle games. I rather think that banning ball games was less related to them being a source of trouble, and more to do with forcing the peasantry to take up the sport of archery instead, as skilled archers were eminently more useful to a medieval king's army than football stars were. The 18-month-long archaeological excavation also revealed the friar's chapel, refectory, infirmary, kitchen and its 2 cloisters, as well as its sewerage system, originally equipped with flushing toilets. Perhaps significantly, the timber-lined sewer channeled all the Franciscan waste directly towards their Dominican rival's friary, just 300 metres away. So, faculty rivalries have been around for 700 years. Good to know there's a proud tradition of university staff being jerks to one another. The full archaeological excavation into the site should be completed by 2021. More than 10,000 medieval artefacts and other finds were unearthed during the excavation and are now being analysed. Microscopic examination of all the food remains has started, and detailed radiocarbon dating on a range of finds will begin shortly. Ultra-rare octagonal oak columns, possibly from the Friary's 13th century timber church, are also being conserved, and it's hoped will go on show in the Museum of Oxford. A beautiful medieval tiled pavement from the Friary has just been put on permanent public display very close to where it was discovered, in the new Westgate shopping centre in central Oxford. Thank you for watching. I hope you found these stories interesting. Please check out my Minds page where I post links to new stories as I hear about them. Cheers!